Welcome to Book Huddle. I'm your host, Karen Reeder, and today we have such a fun guest. This is Mona Ill with Honest Math Chat. She's got a wonderful podcast and her business, Mona Math. And it's just so fun to think about that, I do reading and she does math. And here we are to talk about just how they relate and the really foundation of it. So I want to give Mona a second to introduce herself, talk about her background, her business, why she started this, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, hey, I'm Mona. I'm really excited to be here because as an elementary school teacher, I feel like I am a reading teacher. I went into teaching to be a reading teacher, right? And all the books and all the integrated ways we can get kids excited about reading, like that is why I became a teacher. I had like thousands of books before I ever had a classroom. And
Beautiful.
I call myself a math avoider because never in a million years, 16 years ago when I started teaching, if somebody would have been like, you're going to have a math podcast for teachers, I'd be like,
Right.
no, I'm not. Why would I do that? I hate math, right? Um, and so I'm just elated to be here to talk to people who are excited about teaching reading and reading because that was me. And there
Nice.
might be people listening that are like, yeah, math, it's not my thing. I just follow the curriculum. That was me. And then I realized, actually teaching reading and all the things I love about it, like discussion and being really student centered and responsive, right? And
Right.
making kids feel like readers, like all that stuff that gets you as the teacher feeling really good,
Yes.
that all should be happening in math too. And
Absolutely.
so when I figured that out and I figured out some ways to do that without burning myself out, um,
Yes.
it really it all clicked for me. And I was like, I have to talk to more people about this because we aren't trained to teach math in these ways that are student centered and responsive to kids. Instead, we're just taught to teach math the way we were taught math.
Right.
And that's the worst.
Yeah.
So, right? So I'm on this mission to help teachers like teaching math
Nice.
and see these connections between the brilliance that they have in their classroom already and
Right.
bringing those into their math classroom.
That's so wonderful. So let's just go from right there. That immediately, as I was perusing your podcast list of episodes, the first thing that I loved that I saw was you were talking about math joy, and you're talking about, 6 reasons to love math for the teacher, and also, helping the students love that. I was recently, just yesterday, having a conversation with somebody who found a piano teacher for her son, and just that her philosophy is, I just want kids to love music, in education, that
Yeah.
it's just about the love. And she was just like, almost started crying because that was never what learning the piano was about. It was all rigid and,
Right.
theory. And so how beautiful that we are embracing this love of math and the teachers and the kids that don't initially have that. So talk to me about this. How can we help kids and teachers ourselves have that love for math?
Yeah. Well, I think it starts with figuring out where you're at as the teacher,
Okay, good.
because a lot of times I think people like me
Mhm.
are inadvertently re exposing kids to some of those messages that are in our society about how math is the worst. Like it
Yes.
doesn't my kid likes those what are they called? Bad guys or like some
Okay, yeah.
graphic novel, right? Like I don't know if it's Bad Guys or there's no Dog Man. Yes, Bad Guys are the best, right? Yes, exactly.
I've got it.
Those or
You've
and,
got
and
Dog
I love those
Man.
books. I love those books.
The things that are just
Dog Man.
funny and fun,
Yes,
right? Yes.
funny.
Oh, we've got it.
But you know what the butt of every one of those school related jokes is?
Right?
Math.
Mm, true.
And
And like
and so
Captain
it's just
Underpants
even
and
in these just funny, lighthearted, reading these
right.
fun books. Next thing you know, it's like, oh, it was now I remember what book it was. It was Pizza and Taco. Do you
Oh,
know
yeah,
that?
one of those. Okay.
Yeah. She's like, let me get it. I can pull anything you say, Mona.
Yeah, just keep on going. Here it is. I promise
Yes.
we have not like talked about this beforehand.
But it's like they're sitting in class and there's three clocks and
Yes.
the clocks are going and going and going and they're all like, ugh, and it's math class and the teacher's like, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So that I think just like perfectly illustrates that we sometimes ourselves are teaching math in ways that aren't exciting to kids because of our own math trauma. I know that's like a big word, but when you have had an instance in your past of like feeling humiliated or failing or just feeling less than,
Right.
you kind of like you carry that with you. And so that was my experience. Like I never felt like I had the skills that mathematicians had.
Okay.
And so it was all about just like, okay, let's get through this math lesson so we can get on to the fun stuff. And those messages come through to kids. So take a minute, pause, think about what's going on in your class. Like, what is it that you're doing
Right.
in math?
Consider how you're presenting it.
Yeah. And like, then think about what lights you up. So for me, it's talking. That's why I have a podcast, right? And that's why on every report card, it's like talks too much, ever.
Nice.
But and then think about, yeah, what is it that like lights you up about teaching? And for me, it was always the discussions. I loved reading a book, having kids talk about it, or having them read, gather evidence, come to the circle, share what you found. Let's have a debate. Who is the best character? Da da da, whatever.
Nice.
Um, and we can do those things in reading because it feels so natural to
Yeah.
us. But then in math, it feels scary
Mm.
because what are they going to say? And do I know the math well enough
Right.
to facilitate that conversation?
Right.
Right. So I went on this mission as a teacher to be like, you know what? No, I'm going to stop talking so much in math class and I'm going to start making kids talk more. They have to
Oh.
talk all day long in our discussions. I
Hmm.
need them to start talking more in math. So, whatever that is for you, if it's picture books, then start bringing picture books into the classroom. If it's, experiences, then start making math problems experiences.
Right.
Like I was in a third grade classroom the other day and they were solving a problem from their curriculum, which was like a good problem,
Yeah.
but it was about a farmer's market and the farmer's onions. Tell me a third grader who's jazzed about onions. That's like handing a child a book with like no pictures and no colors. Now we know that book is really fabulous.
Yes.
The book with no pictures.
Yes. Oh, right there.
But that's like handing a kid a book that like is the most boring thing on the planet. Like, why would they engage? So when you run into those problems in your math class,
Rewrite them to make them interesting
yeah,
or something. Okay.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Make it relevant to your
Yes.
kids and their interest in life.
Yes. Oh, my kid's teacher in Virginia, it was really cool. Often the questions were about, like, it would say the teacher's name, Mrs. Jones, third grade class, da da da, and she would like make it about them. And so she
Yes.
probably didn't even have to completely create her own math problems. She could say, okay, this is what it is. Oh, onions out, Mrs. Jones class in, and they're whatever they're working on, their
Yeah,
meals for recess. You know what I mean?
exactly.
And so cross out the boring stuff and make it relevant. That's cool. I like
Mhm.
it. Make it something that's meaningful to them.
Yes, absolutely. I think that like that's a good first step, right? Just like put the kids' names in the problems,
Yeah.
right? Like they will be automatically more excited. And
Yes.
then, giving them real opportunities to solve real world problems
Cool.
will help them
Yes.
get more excited about math and you as the teacher too.
Yeah. Bring that excitement. Okay. I'm loving it. So also then we talk about confidence. So how can
Mhm.
we help them have this confidence in learning math?
Yeah. So there's so many students in our classrooms who just aren't confident, right? So it's
Mhm.
like they come into math and it's immediately like, help me, I don't know what to do. Help me, I
Right.
don't know what to do.
Yes.
And so we often go to small group lessons because there's so many kids who need help. So why don't we just put them in groups and I'll teach them five at a time so I can help everybody.
Okay.
And I get it. But what if we, instead of helping them, we taught them how to help themselves. We taught them how to have confidence in themselves
Great.
because that's a lifelong learning skill,
Yeah.
right? To say, I'm facing something I don't know how to do. I just opened up a book. I just saw a problem. and I
Yes.
don't know how to do it. So instead of saying, I don't know, so they have to help me,
Yes.
which is a mindset,
Hmm.
instead looking at that and going, okay, I don't know how to do this yet.
Hmm.
And I'm going to figure this out because I have tools to use.
Beautiful.
And so that's where I think confidence comes. Confidence comes from success,
Yeah.
right? Having
Yes.
success. So
Yes.
we have to find ways for kids to help themselves be successful.
Beautiful.
You can't build confidence by me doing it for you, right?
Oh,
Like that just builds learned helplessness. And
right.
so,
Right.
yeah. So I do think that one of the ways that we can do that is by kind of flipping the way that we teach math now, which is I tell you how to do it, I show
Yep.
you how to do it on my
Yes.
board, and then you do it.
And you do it on the worksheet. Okay.
Right. Which is not learning, right? That
Mhm.
would be like us reading a text to the kids completely and
Mhm.
then being like, please reread. And you would like, that's just not learning. That's what we call
That's
mimicking,
boring.
right?
Yeah.
And yeah, there might be a time where we have to do that a little
Time
bit.
and place. Okay.
Sure. But for the most part, kids have so much curiosity and innate problem
Yeah.
solving
Yeah.
that we don't give them time to bring to the classroom
Mm.
because we say, no, 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 this is how we do it. And don't do that yet. We haven't learned that yet.
Not
Do it
ready.
this way,
Right.
right? But if you've ever interacted with a young child and you've said, "Give me 3 of those." I used to do
Right.
this with my like son when he was like 2 all the time. I'd be like, "Do you want 5 crackers or 2 crackers?" And he used to say 2 all the time because he was 2.
Yeah.
And then he soon realized, "Hold up, lady, I want 5,"
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They can reason. They can
Yeah.
reason about quantity at young ages, and they do.
Yeah.
And
Especially given these opportunities.
exactly. And so giving kids opportunities to bring what they know because they don't only learn when they're in in the desks in front of you in their
Right.
class. They learn all the time.
Oh, absolutely. Especially one thing that I am such an advocate of is, learning through play and exploration and things like that. Bring that to math and beautiful. I love it. All
So
right.
yeah, so giving kids opportunities to just explore a problem and solve a problem
Yeah.
before we teach it, which is terrifying to teachers, myself included 10,
Yes.
11 years ago. What do you mean
Because
you
you
want me to
never
just
know.
give
If
them
you
a
give it to
problem?
them, you never know the direction. And if you want to
Exactly.
know the plan and the direction, that's scary to put it out of your hands.
Yeah. And it really allows kids to feel confident
Yes.
because they can go, oh, I can do this.
Great.
I might not be able to do the standard algorithm or that crazy way you showed me with all those numbers,
Right.
but I can draw a picture and I can count those up by ones and I can figure it out. And
Cool.
then we can celebrate that. And we could say, you're a mathematician. You
Cool.
can do this.
Yes.
And then we can go on and move on, just that next step, right? And edge up to the standard algorithm.
I love calling them a mathematician because I've
Yeah,
seen classrooms where we call them, all right, scientists, come on, we're ready to start science lesson. All right, but let's call them what it is when it's time. All right, my readers, come on. All right, my mathematicians, you guys are capable. You are mathematicians.
right. And
That's
it's important
I
that
like
they
it.
know the skills that a mathematician has, right? And know that they possess those
That's cool.
because that's all about rewriting those messages that we get from society or our culture
Right.
that are incorrect. And so we
Yeah.
have to rewrite those, but we have to do it through our actions and our words in our classrooms. And so showing kids being a mathematician isn't about getting everything right. Being a mathematician is about having in progress thinking, a lot of more questions than answers, right? A lot of mistakes. That's what an actual real life mathematician
That's
does. And
cool.
that's what we're going to
Cool.
do in here. Um, so I think calling them mathematicians is the first step, and then pointing out the things that we do in here are what make you a mathematician.
That's cool. Yeah, I saw your episode, What is Math? Let's break it down to the most simplest stuff. This is a mathematician. I want that on the board. What did you say? The progress, can you say it again? The progress of thinking,
In progress
in
thinking.
progress thinking.
Mhm.
Thank you. In progress thinking. That should be a quote, right there. You are in progress thinking and you are capable and you are a mathematician. How cool.
Mhm.
These positive, like it's kind of like those affirmations. You are a
Yes.
mathematician. And then say it again to them. Let them believe that.
Yeah. I love math. I love math affirmations because kids get overwhelmed in math
Yeah.
class, right? And so having affirmations or statements, kind of like mantras in your math
Hmm.
class that you can go to. One is, I have everything inside of me I need to solve this problem.
Cool.
Because
So
that right
empowering.
there speaks to what we were talking about a minute ago, which is like, you don't need my help, honey. You just got to try because you have everything inside of you to solve this problem, right? And so then it's all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, well
Okay.
let me give it a shot,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. You believe in me? Then why don't I believe in me? Yes.
right.
Yes. Okay. So this is why I wanted to bring you today, Mona. So it's just so many of these similar things is, like I was saying, you are a scientist, you are a reader, and having these affirmations with each of it's a method of teaching,
Mhm.
let's bring it to our reading. So let's talk about, I want to talk about how they relate, like the
Yeah,
reasons for math and reading together, like, because I was thinking about it and I was like, really, it's a bunch of symbols on paper for these
totally.
pre-readers and these beginning readers, just like math is. We're just looking at a bunch of symbols and things strung together, and we're like, put that together and make some sense. We're teaching them to do it. It's really similar for both, and
Yeah.
the foundation for both. So before we started, we were talking a little bit about that. So can you share with us some of that about math and reading and how that overlaps?
Yes. So I always tell my teachers when we're making this shift to, you know, not teaching this strategy one day and that strategy the next day. And like, because that's hard. It's hard to say, but wait. The pacing guide, the curriculum tells me
Yeah.
spend 2 days on this one and 2 days on that one. And I always say, but kids don't learn that way, right? We would never say, okay, y'all, got to learn how to read, those that level of books over there, or those kind of books, or this set of words, and you've got one day to learn it.
Right.
And then I'm gonna give you a bunch of worksheets, and you better get them right. And we
Right.
got a quiz at the end of the week, and you better get them. It's like they just don't learn that way, right? Like
Right.
in some kids like have all their letters mastered right away before they hit school. And
Right.
then other kids, it's like they just can't figure out L
Right.
forever, right? It's
Yeah.
just like, why is this so difficult? And that's okay. Like we're just figuring it out as we go because that's learning.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I say to teachers all the time is if you had a student who was in third grade and they were, still learning a lot of foundational skills in reading, would you ask them to read this chapter book? Hold up like a third grade level chapter book,
Right.
like an I Survived or whatever.
Right.
And no, of course not. Like they would feel defeated, really unsuccessful. They would give up. They
That
would cry.
would not give them that confidence we were talking about. They
That's
would
right.
not
We
feel
would
like a
that would
reader.
go against what we were doing.
Yes.
It's like, but that's what we do in math when we teach like today and tomorrow we're going to do the break apart strategy and everyone's going to solve with that.
Right.
Well, if I'm still mastering how to count by tens, right? And I don't fully understand place value, break apart strategy would be like taking a two-digit number like 84 and
Okay.
breaking it into 80 and 4.
Okay.
And then if it's an addition problem like plus 17, then I would break the 10 and the 7 and I'd add the tens, add the ones.
Okay.
Great strategy.
Yes.
It makes sense to you if
Yeah.
you're ready for it.
Right.
But maybe I'm still developing and I still need to see it, right? I still need
Okay.
to have the blocks because I'm not trusting you that that's actually an 80. It's an 8. So, but if I build the number with my base 10 blocks, right? And I get
Right.
out 8 tens and then I get out 4 ones. Okay, now I believe it. And then if I take these and I take the 110 over here, then I can see that that's 90.
Right.
I can still do that strategy. But for me right now, I'm in concrete, right? I need the tools.
Yes.
And so that's so related to how we believe students learn as readers
Yeah.
and writing too, right? Like just the way that we forgive students in a way of like, okay, like that's where you're at with writing. Like
That's
we
cool.
can't force kids into higher levels, right?
Yeah.
Like what we know in writing is like if a student's not yet writing words, this happened to me once. I had a student in third grade who would just write like the first letter of
Oh,
every word.
Okay.
And she could tell you the whole story back, but it was one letter for each word.
Mm.
Well, it's not like I was like, hey, start writing words.
Right.
You're in third grade, it's time. No, no, no. What did I do? I gave her a lot of time and a lot of
Yeah.
practice
Yes.
and a lot of space to try
Right.
and celebrated when she put two letters or three letters for a word.
Awesome.
And
Yeah.
that's what we have to do for math. We have to provide time and space for students to show what they know,
Right.
do what they know, and give them that like that nudge or that nugget that's going to take them to just the next step. They're
Okay.
not going to bunny hop over several levels or
Right.
understandings. They're
Right.
going to go a little by little, just like
Yes.
how we all learn everything.
Yes. All right. Loving it. All right. So Mona, can you share with us a favorite children's book?
I have it right here. It's
Beautiful.
so,
I'm
so
excited
good.
to see.
It's called When Sophie Thinks She Can't.
Okay.
And so it's by Molly Bang, who also wrote these Sophie books, which I'm sure people are more
Angry.
familiar.
Cool. Cool.
Like when she gets really, really angry, it's a popular one. But this is such a good book about mindset, about building confidence.
Beautiful.
Okay.
And
So
actually, I
Sophie,
haven't heard of it. All these other
you
books you
haven't?
mentioned
Okay.
before, I don't have on my shelf.
So she's working through tangrams. We
Okay.
know this.
Yes.
This is like
Yes.
a common math thing.
Yes.
She's like trying to figure it out. And her
Okay.
sister comes along and is like, boom, and does it.
Yeah.
And she's instantly like, well, I'm the worst at math.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
can't
Oh,
figure
gosh.
out
I hear
puzzles.
that phrase so much
Yeah.
in this house.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
And it
Especially
even
if my
says in here, I
sibling
love,
can and they can do it quickly, then I'm just hopeless. There it
yeah,
is.
I
Right.
love it. I love how they like made this. It looks like a monster almost.
Yes. Yes. And the
And she has
emotion that
like,
you're feeling behind that.
yeah, Sophie has the best teacher
Yay.
who gives them a math challenge
Okay.
and they have to do it. And this is Sophie's face. Like, I can't.
Right.
And
She's
she
got that firm in
struggles
her head.
and her friends struggle. And then the teacher says, I see you mathematicians struggling. So she's the best teacher. And then she talks about the word yet, and the kids figure it out. And there's this really great drawing of all these arrays that they make, all these all these rectangles. And then at the end, Sophie goes home. I'm going to ruin the end. Sorry.
That's
Sophie
all
goes
right.
home and she applies her new mindset to her dad when he's struggling to
Nice.
fix the cabinet. And she
Don't
says,
kids just love to do that? Show what
they,
they know and help their parents. I love it.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's my favorite one right
I
now.
and I
I
love
think that
that.
this could be such a powerful conversation in your classroom if
Yes.
you had this conversation and then built some math norms
Yeah.
around it. So
Beautiful.
have this and then start to build out that toolbox for kids of when we struggle, what's going to be our new normal in math? Because
Right.
right now, what we do is we put our head down, we get frustrated, we raise our hand.
Yes.
What are we going to
Before
do
even
now?
trying. Help.
Yes. Yes. You're right. They don't even get to like the
Yeah.
frustrated part because they don't want to.
They don't want to, feel that way. Who likes to
Right.
feel that way?
Who does?
Of course
Right.
it. Yeah.
Right. So they're like, I'm going to get help before I even try. And so,
Yeah.
just establishing some like, well, in this class, we try first, right?
Mhm.
We ask a friend. We know that we will, like, just expecting to struggle in math is one thing, right? And so to normalize it
Yes.
with a text, and then this becomes that touch point memory. We can
Yes.
always be talking about Sophie and her friends and what
Yes.
did they say and what would Sophie do, right? And just kind of creating
Love it.
that memory so that kids can then say, I can do that too.
Yeah. So this book is such a great way to introduce it. And there are probably more. I bet you have a bunch.
Oh, there's so many
But
more.
you could just, have these introductory conversations. Great
Mhm.
way, comfortable way to introduce it because maybe it's awkward to bring these things up for some people. Comfortable way to introduce it. And then, like you were saying, refer back to. These are
Mhm.
cues that you can say, oh, just like Sophie, we remember, let's not
Yes.
have that I can't monster, or whatever. I love it.
Yeah. And And people are so good at like creating like text sets, right? And then you kind of read similar books. Like you could totally do that with like productive struggle is what
Right.
this is, right? Or mindset and do it
Yes.
like read Jabari Jumps first
Mhm.
because that's about swimming. And
Yes.
then
Yes.
read,
I know that one.
read something else about a kid struggling. And
Doesn't
then go
have to be
home,
about math. Yes.
you know, like
Beautiful.
swimming, riding your bike, all these things that kids are okay with
And
struggling.
willing to tackle, these
Mhm.
challenges that they are willing to approach. Yes, that's beautiful. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Mona, for taking the time to talk with us. And like, I feel like we can just sum it up so easily, attitudes across the whole learning anything. If we bring the attitude and this love and passion for whatever the subject, the math, the reading, or whatever it might be. And then, strategies. It's about it in all of these subjects, these strategies that we bring forward. And so Mona's got these strategies. She's got these skills for you. So we're going to include in the links below in our we're going to include in the description below how you can find Mona. She has this podcast, and then we'll direct you to her website and her socials. And so check it out because this is what we need, attitudes and strategies to help in our instruction. And
Absolutely.
then maybe you're just a parent at home, but that makes a difference the way we talk about it. Because when it's, it's fine that it's referred to in this way in our readings, maybe, but because we got to joke about something sometimes. But how do you talk about it at home as a parent too? What are our attitudes as the parent?
Mhm.
Because even if we're not teachers, we can change these attitudes about things and help support and encourage our kids.
Yes. And
So
even when I see that taco and pizza joke,
yes.
about math, I'm like, I like math.
Yeah,
Well, that teacher's got to do something different because math is
that's right.
cool. And then we move on, right? Like it's like
Exactly. It
just
doesn't
those
need to be
little
an elaborate
tactics.
thing, but it can have a
Mhm.
comment. You can
Mhm.
laugh at the joke and then be like, but do you know what? It's okay to
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. Cool. Well, I
Mhm.
love it. Thanks so much for taking the time today to chat with us,
Yeah.
Mona.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye-bye.